say the dead don't walk among us, but they never said anything about walking backward. At 3:07 a.m., on a street that should have been empty, Ethan saw her again. A pale girl in white, hair draped like a veil, moving with an unnatural grace that defied logic and life itself. No footsteps echoed, but the ground bore her weight, deep, wet prints on dry pavement. She didn't speak. She didn't blink. She simply stared, her hollow eyes promising something far worse than death. Whatever she wasn't done with him. And Ethan knew, some encounters leave a mark. You never escape. The street was empty, bathed in the dim glow of flickering streetlights. The occasional rustling of leaves in the cold night wind was the only sound accompanying Ethan as he walked home. It was past 3 a.m., and the silence of the sleeping town made every step he took feel unnervingly loud. He had stayed late at his friend Noah's apartment, working on a research paper. As much as he hated walking home at this hour, his dorm was only a few blocks away, and calling a taxi felt unnecessary. As he turned a corner onto Maple Street, a chill ran down his spine. He wasn't sure why, but something felt off. The air was colder here, almost unnaturally so. The streetlights ahead seemed dimmer than the ones behind him. Then he saw her. A girl stood at the far end of the street, her long black hair cascading over her shoulders, obscuring part of her face. She was wearing a simple white dress that looked old-fashioned, flowing down to her bare feet. But that wasn't what made Ethan's breath hitch. She was walking backward. Her movements were slow, deliberate, as if she were being pulled by an unseen force. Her arms hung limply at her sides, and her head was tilted slightly downward, hiding her features. Ethan froze. His instincts screamed at him to turn around and leave, but his curiosity got the better of him. "Hey, are you okay?" he called out, his voice hesitant. She didn't react. She kept moving, her feet barely making a sound against the pavement. Ethan took a step forward, feeling the cold air grow even heavier around him. "Do you need help?" Still no response. Then she stopped. For a moment, everything was silent. The wind had died. The world itself seemed to hold its breath. And then, she vanished. Ethan's heart pounded against his ribs. His breath came in short gasps as he scanned the empty street. There was no sign of her, no movement, no lingering shadow. Just nothing. But when he looked down, his stomach twisted. The ground where she had stood was covered in footprints, not ordinary ones. These prints were deep, as if she had been pressing down with immense weight, and they were wet. Dark patches on the pavement, though there hadn't been any rain that night. Ethan stumbled back, his pulse hammering in his ears. This wasn't normal. A prank, a hallucination. He had heard of sleep deprivation causing strange visions, but this felt too real, too vivid. His fingers trembled as he pulled out his phone, snapping a picture of the footprints. The camera lens showed exactly what he saw. Deep, dark imprints that shouldn't have been there. That was enough for him. He turned and walked away quickly, resisting the urge to run. By the time he reached his dorm, he had convinced himself it was nothing. A trick of the light, a tired mind playing games with him. But as he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, he couldn't shake the image of that girl walking backward. And deep inside, a dreadful feeling settled in his chest. This wasn't over. Ethan lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, but sleep never came. His mind kept replaying the image of the girl, her slow, unnatural movements. the way she vanished without a trace. The footprints, still fresh in his memory, sent a shiver down his spine. He grabbed his phone and looked at the picture he had taken. The footprints were there, just as deep and dark as he remembered. His rational mind tried to make sense of it. Maybe it was some kind of optical illusion. Maybe the moisture on the ground had made the footprints look more pronounced. But none of that explained why she had been walking backward. Frustrated, Ethan put his phone down and rubbed his face. He needed sleep. Maybe in the morning, things would make more sense. The next day, Ethan woke up late, his head still foggy from lack of sleep. Sunlight streamed through his dorm window, chasing away the eerie thoughts from the night before. He tried to shake off the lingering unease as he got ready for class. At lunch, he met up with Noah and their friend Claire at a small cafe near campus. The place was buzzing with students, the scent of fresh coffee filling the air. "You look like a zombie," Noah said, raising an eyebrow. "Did you even sleep last night?" Ethan hesitated. He wasn't sure if he should bring it up. It sounded ridiculous when he thought about it. Who would believe he had seen a girl walking backward at 3 a.m.? "Not really," Ethan admitted. "Something weird happened on my way home." Claire leaned in with interest. "Weird how?" Ethan took a deep breath and told them everything. The girl, the way she moved, how she disappeared, and the footprints that remained. Noah scoffed. "Dude, you were probably just tired. You've been pulling all-nighters for that research paper. Sleep deprivation messes with your brain." "That's what I thought at first," Ethan said, unlocking his phone and showing them the picture. "But look at this." Claire took the phone and frowned. "Okay, this is creepy." She zoomed in on the footprints. "They don't look normal. They're too deep." Noah shrugged. Maybe it was some kind of art project. You know, performance art. People do weird stuff in the middle of the night. Claire shot him a look. Performance art at 3 a.m. Without an audience. Noah smirked. "Hey, you never know." Ethan shook his head. It didn't feel like a prank. It felt wrong. Claire was still studying the photo. "You said she disappeared, like right in front of you." "Yeah," Ethan said. "1 second she was there, the next she was gone. But the footprints were still there." Claire bit her lip. "Maybe we should check the spot again tonight." Ethan hesitated. The last thing he wanted was to go back to that street, but part of him needed to know if the footprints were still there. If they were, then maybe this wasn't just his imagination. Noah rolled his eyes. "You two are seriously going ghost hunting now?" Claire ignored him. "What time did this happen?" "A little after 3 a.m., Ethan said. Claire nodded. "Then we should go around the same time." Ethan sighed. He wasn't sure if he wanted to go back, but he also knew he wouldn't be able to stop thinking about it if he didn't. "Fine," he said. "But if nothing happens, we're leaving right away." That night, the three of them met up at Ethan's dorm before heading out. The air was colder than usual, and the town was eerily quiet as they walked toward Maple Street. By this time they arrived, it was 3:07 a.m. The street looked just as empty as it had the night before. The street lights flickered slightly, casting long shadows on the pavement. Ethan's heart pounded as he approached the spot where he had seen the girl. His breath formed small clouds in the air. Then he saw them. The footprints were still there. His stomach twisted. They hadn't faded or dried up. They looked exactly as they had the night before. Deep, dark, unnatural. Claire crouched down, running her fingers over one of the prints. "This doesn't make sense," she whispered. "If these were made last night, they should be gone by now." The pavement is dry. Noah's confident expression faltered. "Okay, this is actually kind of freaky." Ethan swallowed hard. "So now do you believe me?" Before anyone could respond, the air suddenly felt heavier, like the atmosphere had thickened. The wind stopped. Everything was unnervingly still. Then, from further down the street, a figure emerged. The girl. She was walking backward again, her movements slow and unnatural. Her long hair obscured most of her face, but what little they could see was pale and expressionless. Claire gasped, stumbling back. Noah muttered a curse under his breath. Ethan's whole body tensed. His instincts screamed at him to run, but his feet refused to move. The girl kept moving backward, step by step, without making a sound. Then she stopped. For a moment it felt as though time itself had paused. The world held its breath. And then she turned her head toward them. Not all the way, just enough for them to see the side of her face. A sharp, cold fear stabbed through Ethan's chest. Her eyes, they were hollow. And then, just like before, she vanished. The silence that followed was deafening. Noah was the first to break it. "We need to leave, now." Ethan didn't argue. None of them did. They turned and hurried away, not daring to look back. As they reached the edge of the street, Claire whispered, "What did we just see?" Ethan's hands were shaking. "I don't know, but deep down he knew one thing for certain. This wasn't over. Not even close." Ethan, Claire, and Noah didn't stop running until they were well away from Maple Street. Only when they reached Ethan's dorm did they finally slow down, their breaths ragged, their hands trembling. That wasn't normal," Noah muttered, pacing back and forth in the small dorm room. His usual sarcastic confidence was gone, replaced by nervous energy. Claire sat on Ethan's bed, staring at the floor, her mind racing. "She looked at us," she whispered, not completely, but enough. Ethan leaned against the wall, his pulse still hammering in his ears. Her eyes. He swallowed hard. They weren't right. No one spoke for a moment. The room was silent except for the distant hum of the campus at night. Then Claire took a deep breath. "We need to find out who she is." Noah scoffed. "Are you serious? We should be doing the exact opposite. Forget this ever happened." Claire shook her head. "How can we just ignore it? We saw something we weren't supposed to, and what if it happens again?" Ethan exhaled slowly. As much as he hated to admit it, Claire was right. This wasn't something they could just walk away from. "What do you suggest?" he asked. Claire pulled out her phone. "We start with history. If this spirit, or whatever she is, keeps appearing on Maple Street, then maybe there's a reason. Maybe something happened there." Ethan sat down beside her, and together they started searching for anything unusual about the area. News articles, old records, urban legends. Anything that might explain what they had seen. After almost an hour of searching, Claire suddenly gasped. "I found something." Noah, who had been anxiously tapping his foot in the corner, moved closer. "What is it?" Claire turned the screen toward them. It was an old newspaper article from nearly 30 years ago. The headline sent a chill down Ethan's spine. Local girl found dead after mysterious disappearance. Beneath the headline was a black and white photo of a young girl, no older than 16. Her long, dark hair and pale face looked eerily familiar. Claire began reading aloud. On the night of November the 12th, 1996, a 16-year-old girl named Lillian Hayes was reported missing after she failed to return home. Witnesses claimed to have seen her walking alone on Maple Street at approximately 3 a.m. Her body was discovered days later in a nearby wooded area with no clear cause of death. Authorities ruled it an accident, but many locals believed something more sinister had occurred. In the years following her death, reports of a girl walking backward down Maple Street at night have persisted, though no official explanation has been given. The room felt colder. Ethan stared at the screen, his heart pounding. That's her. That has to be her. Claire nodded, still processing the information. She was last seen at 3 a.m., walking alone, just like what we saw. Noah rubbed his face. This is insane. So we saw a ghost. A real ghost. Claire kept scrolling through related articles. There are so many stories about her. People have seen her for years, always at the same time, always walking backward. But no one knows why. Ethan frowned. Why backward, though? That's the one thing that doesn't make sense. Claire hesitated before answering. There's a theory here. Some people believe that spirits who suffer a tragic or unresolved death sometimes rewind their last moments, like a tape playing in reverse. Ethan shuddered at the thought. So she's reliving the night she disappeared. Claire nodded. Or maybe she's trying to show us something. The three of them sat in silence, the weight of their discovery settling over them. Then Noah stood up. Okay, so now what? We know who she is, but what do we do with that? Claire hesitated. Maybe we need to talk to someone who knows more about her. Ethan's mind raced. If they wanted real answers, they needed someone who had lived in the town long enough to remember what happened. Then it hit him. My grandmother, he said. Claire and Noah turned to him. She's lived here her whole life. If anyone remembers the truth about Lillian Hayes, it's her. Claire nodded. Then let's talk to her. Maybe she can help us figure out why Lillian is still here. Ethan took a deep breath. He wasn't sure if he was ready for whatever answers they might find. But deep down, he knew they couldn't ignore this. Because if Lillian was still walking that street after all these years, it meant she was waiting for someone to notice. And now, they had. The next afternoon, Ethan drove out to visit his grandmother, Margaret Holloway. She lived in a small, quiet house on the outskirts of town, a place untouched by time. As he pulled into the driveway, he could already see her waiting on the porch, rocking gently in her wooden chair. Ethan, dear, she greeted warmly as he stepped out of the car. It's been a while since you visited. Ethan smiled, feeling a pang of guilt. Yeah, sorry about that, Grandma. School's been keeping me busy. Margaret waved a dismissive hand. Nonsense, I know how life gets. She paused, studying him with the sharp eyes. But I can tell something's on your mind. Ethan hesitated. He wasn't sure how to bring up what he had seen. Would she even believe him? Taking the deep breath, he sat down beside her. Grandma, do you remember a girl named Lillian Hayes? The rocking chair stopped. Margaret's expression darkened, her fingers tightening around the armrests. For a moment, Ethan thought she wouldn't answer. Then, in a quiet voice, she said, "Where did you hear that name?" Ethan hesitated, but he knew he had to be honest. "Some friends and I, we saw something on Maple Street, a girl walking backward at night. When we looked it up, we found out about Lillian." Margaret let out a slow breath and gazed into the distance. "I was hoping that story had been forgotten," she murmured. Ethan leaned forward. "So, it's true. She really existed." Margaret nodded. "Lillian was a sweet girl. I knew her family, though we weren't close. She was quiet, always polite. But there was something about her, something sad. Even as a child, she seemed like she carried the weight of the world on her shoulders." Ethan listened intently, his heart pounding. "What happened to her?" Margaret was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke. She was different, in ways people didn't understand back then. There were rumors, whispers that she saw things no one else could. Shadows, voices, things that didn't belong to this world. People in town said she was strange, and strange people often end up alone. Ethan swallowed hard. "And the night she disappeared," Margaret's eyes darkened. "She was last seen on Maple Street, walking backward. Just like you said, some people believe she was trying to escape something. Others think she was following something only she could see." Ethan shivered. "And when they found her," Margaret's expression grew somber. "There were no signs of struggle, no injuries. She was just gone. Her body was found lying peacefully in the woods, as if she had fallen asleep. But the strangest part, she met Ethan's eyes. Her shoes were missing, and there was a single set of footprints leading up to where she lay." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. "Footprints?" Margaret nodded. "But they weren't going toward the spot. They were leading away." A chill ran down Ethan's spine. Like she had walked there, backward. Margaret's gaze was unreadable. Exactly. Ethan felt dizzy. This wasn't just a ghost story. Something had happened to Lillian, something that no one had ever understood. And if she was still walking that street after all these years, what do you think really happened to her? Ethan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Margaret was quiet for a long time before answering. "I think Lillian was afraid of something, and whatever it was, didn't let her leave." Ethan sat back, his mind spinning. "Do you think she's trying to tell us something?" Margaret studied him carefully. "Perhaps, or maybe she's warning you to stay away." A shiver ran down Ethan's spine. After a long pause, Margaret sighed and stood up. "Come with me." Ethan followed her inside the house. She led him to a small wooden chest in the living room, its surface covered in dust. With careful hands, she opened it and pulled out an old photo album. She flipped through the pages before stopping at a faded photograph. It was Lillian. She stood in front of a house, smiling softly at the camera. But what made Ethan's stomach turn was the background, barely visible in the shadows behind her. A figure, dark, indistinct, but undeniably there. Ethan's hands clenched into fists. "Grandma, do you see that?" Margaret nodded slowly. "You're not the first to notice. Some say it was just a flaw in the film. Others believe it was something else." Ethan couldn't tear his eyes away from the image. The figure's shape was blurred, but it almost looked like it was watching Lillian. Waiting, Margaret closed the album and placed a gentle hand on Ethan's shoulder. "Whatever you and your friends do, be careful. There are some things in this world that don't like to be disturbed." Ethan swallowed hard. He had come looking for answers, but all he had found were more questions and a sinking feeling that this wasn't over. Not even close. Ethan drove back to campus in silence, his mind racing with everything his grandmother had told him. Lillian Hayes wasn't just a name from an old newspaper article. She was real, and whatever had happened to her that night had left something behind. When he arrived at his dorm, Claire and Noah were waiting for him. The tension in the room was thick as Ethan sat down and told them everything. Noah shook his head in disbelief. "So, you're telling me she wasn't just some random ghost? She was actually running from something?" Ethan nodded, or following something. Either way, it explains why she was walking backward. Claire, deep in thought, glanced at Ethan. "Do you think she's stuck? Like trapped in that moment?" Ethan sighed. "Maybe. But if that's the case, there has to be a reason she's still there." Noah exhaled sharply. "Okay, so what do we do? Because I really don't feel like getting haunted for the rest of my life." Claire looked at them both. "I think we need to go back." Noah groaned. "Of course you do." Ethan hesitated, but deep down, he knew Claire was right. They had come too far to just walk away. "Tonight," he said, "we go back to Maple Street. But this time, we try to talk to her." Later that night, the three of them stood at the edge of Maple Street. The air was colder than before, an unnatural chill that made Ethan's skin prickle. Claire checked her phone. "It's 2:59 a.m. Noah rubbed his arms. "I hate this already." Ethan's heart pounded as the clock struck 3, and then she was there, Lillian, walking backward down the street, just as she had before. Her long hair flowed behind her pale face hidden from view. The faint sound of her footsteps echoed in the silence. Ethan swallowed hard. "Lillian." She didn't react. Claire took a cautious step forward. "Lillian Hayes, we know what happened to you. We want to help." Still, no response. Noah shifted uneasily. Guys." Then, for the first time, Lillian stopped walking. Then, air grew thick, heavy. Slowly, she turned her head, just enough for them to see part of her face. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Her eyes were wide, terrified, like she was looking at something behind them. A sudden gust of wind rushed past, them sending chills down Ethan's spine. The streetlights flickered, casting strange shadows on the pavement. And then, a whisper, faint, barely audible. "Don't let it find me." Ethan's blood ran cold. Who's looking for you?" Lillian's breath hitched. Then, in the distance, footsteps. Not hers. Someone or something was approaching. The footsteps were slow, deliberate. They came from the darkness beyond the streetlights, growing louder with each passing second. Noah grabbed Ethan's arm. "We need to go, now." Ethan was frozen in place. Lillian wasn't looking at them anymore. She was looking past them, her expression one of sheer terror. Claire's voice trembled. "Ethan." The streetlight above them flickered and died. Everything went black. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, a breath right behind them. Ethan spun around, heart hammering, but there was nothing there. When he turned back, Lillian was gone. The street was empty. The only thing left behind were footprints, fading into nothing. Ethan staggered back, his pulse pounding in his ears. Did you hear that? Noah's face was pale. We're leaving. Right now. None of them argued. As they ran back toward campus, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something had been there with them, watching, waiting, and whatever it was, it hadn't left. Epilogue days passed. They didn't talk about what had happened on Maple Street, but the weight of it never left. Then, one evening, Ethan's phone buzzed. A message from Claire. Check the news. Ethan clicked the link she had sent. His blood turned to ice. Strange footprints discovered on Maple Street. No explanation found. The article described how multiple sets of footprints had been found along the street, all leading backward. No source, no explanation. Ethan closed his phone, his hands shaking. Somewhere out there in the dark, Lillian was still walking, and she wasn't alone.